Hey guys, I wanted to hop on and talk about the power of healing after a miscarriage. Some of you may know, some of you may not know that my husband and I had 6 miscarriages. I just want to be clear that that doesn't mean you're going to have 6 miscarriages. It was just the journey that we ended up going through. But there is a lot of trauma and effects that happen to us after we've experienced a pregnancy loss and a miscarriage. And so I wanted to talk about that and talk about how important healing is at this point. A lot of scientists, therapists, counselors are really coming to learn the value of going through the healing process instead of hiding and sweeping it under the rug. So I guess my mantra is heal, don't hide. It took me a long time to realize the effects that my miscarriages had on my life. It took me about probably 4 years after our last miscarriage to really see that the effects had like permeated my entire life. I was distant from my husband. I was distant from my children, who I had tried so hard and worked so hard to have. I wasn't feeling as much joy as I had felt before our miscarriages. I was feeling anxiety, which I had never experienced before, probably low levels of depression, a little bit of PTSD, which I believe now we're calling PTSS, because it's not a disorder, it's a syndrome. So from now on, I'll call it PTSS. So there's a lot of effects that a miscarriage can have on our lives. And if we don't go through the healing work at the time of our miscarriage, it's really going to start having an impact on your life later on. And you may not realize what that effect is going to be. For me, it looked like this. I had my first miscarriage and obviously was very upset, was very sad, and kind of hid from the world, which I think is absolutely normal. I think we need to go through that where we kind of cocoon for a while. Cry, please cry. Crying releases stress hormones, which helps us feel better afterwards. So I know there is a lot of fear in letting ourselves cry because we're afraid that the crying is never going to end. It will end, I promise. So let yourself cry, let yourself feel the emotions. So I would cry, I would hide in my bed, in my room. I would pour myself a glass of wine, get under the covers, and just hide from the world. I became distant with my friends. I became distant with my husband. My work was suffering. I would go to work, come home, interact a little bit with the family, and then just go hide. And then I would get pregnant and find a lot of anxiety in that pregnancy. So if this is your first pregnancy loss, if this is your first miscarriage, you might start finding that you're anxious about getting pregnant again. You're anxious about when you do get pregnant again, how that's going to affect your life, how it's going to, what's going to happen during this pregnancy. So I would get pregnant again. I would obsess about that pregnancy. I would take pregnancy test after pregnancy test. I had so many intrusive thoughts. I would ruminate about what was happening, and it started taking over my life. Either we would lose the baby or, we ended up having a son. But I essentially taught my brain to be in a state of anxiety. I essentially rewired my brain to feel anxious and to live in that anxiety. It's called neuroplasticity. I taught myself this because I was anxious for essentially 2 years. And I had never been through that before. So what I came to learn years later was that I needed to reteach myself to not be anxious and reteach myself to experience joy on a consistent basis. In 2020, the Journal of Obstetrics came out saying that 20% of women who experience a pregnancy loss or miscarriage will experience PTSD, anxiety, or depression. I would venture to say it's probably higher than that, but I don't know. To me, it's actually very surprising that we're just discovering this. I think there's a lot of trauma that goes involved when we lose a child, lose a baby inside of us, and it's really hard to recover from that. So, my point being, there's a lot of healing that needs to take place, and the healing should begin during the miscarriage or right after. It shouldn't wait until you start seeing the effects on your life. Um, if we don't go through the healing process at the time, it's going to show up as, like I said, PTSS, anxiety, depression, disease in our life. It's going to show up as affecting our relationships. It's going to show up as affecting our work and our joy and our connection to ourselves, to everyone else around us. And you're not going to see that until later on, and you're not going to know what it is that's causing this. So the importance of healing at the time is so important, so that you can stop those anxious thoughts, so that you can feel the love and the joy and the connection in your life again. So is it going to be painful? 100%. It's not going to be easy. Going through a pregnancy loss is not easy. Going through the healing process is not easy. Are you going to cry? Yeah. It's going to be hard. I find the healing process, I think it's a continuation. I think you're just constantly healing. And it is difficult, but it is so worth going through that process earlier rather than later. It's so worth going through that at the time, instead of waiting for it to affect your life later on, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years down the road. You know, you won't want it to affect your relationship with your partner. You don't want it to end in divorce because you're so angry, because you don't know why you're angry. And it turns out it's related to these pregnancy losses. So it's well worth going through the pain. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of vulnerability to do it, but it's worth it. So please, I highly encourage you, if you are going through a pregnancy loss, miscarriage, grief, please go out, go through the healing, do the hard work. If you are needing a community, if you are needing a group of women who are going to understand, I've created an app called Miscarriage Warrior app. You are more than welcome to join us. It's a safe community. It's absolutely free. You just download it on any app, or on any app subscription. It's called Miscarriage Warrior. Come, reach out, be surrounded so that you know that you're not alone in this process. You can post if you want to post. You can talk about what you're going through. You can see what other women are experiencing. You can get advice from me. I'm constantly posting in there and talking about different ways of healing, different methods that we can use. So join that if you feel like you need to, if you need a community, if you need a safe place to go. And that is honestly one of the best ways I feel that you can go through the healing process, is reaching out to someone and being surrounded by people who are going through a similar experience. So please don't ignore this. Don't sweep it under the rug. It's one of the most important things that you can do for yourself. It's not selfish. It's an act of love for yourself and for your future family, for your partner, for your friends. Please take care of yourself. Go through the healing. Reach out if you need anything. You can find me on the Miscarriage Warrior app. So what I always like to say to the women that I talk to and work with is, you can't control your pregnancy loss, but you can control your healing. So it starts here, starts now. Please feel free to reach out. And thank you for watching.